What's going on, guys? It's Matt with the Face Off Sports Network here for my favorite fantasy rookie impact players right now for your redraft leagues. We are 2 weeks away from the kickoff of the NFL season, which means now it's time to start thinking about who we're going to be drafting, and I'm going to highlight some current values you can get in your redrafts right now. My first and favorite value as it stands right now is none other than Treveyon Henderson, the running back who finds his way with the New England Patriots, getting drafted in the second round at the draft. When we step back and we look at the profile of Treveyon Henderson, it is an explosive playmaker. None other than on his very first play, he housed the kickoff return. The first time he touched the ball, absolutely electric playmaker there at Ohio State. When we pull up his stats there, it's going to kind of not tell the full picture. I mean, we see in 2024, he had just over 1,000 rushing yards, 11 total touchdowns with 27 receptions and 284 yards. A solid year at Ohio State, but what it doesn't tell you is he also had Quinshon Judkins, fellow running back drafted in the second round to the Cleveland Browns, playing alongside with him. So this tandem was able to absolutely dominate at Ohio State and found their way working up into our draft boards. Now, when we currently look at where we're at with Treveyon Henderson, we need to note he's RB20 right now, and his ADP is currently at 50. So if you really step back and you look at it, the value is there. I mean, you're looking at names like David Montgomery, fellow rookie RJ Harvey, Jamison Williams that are kind of going in that range. And in my opinion, I would rather have Treveyon Henderson. He's an explosive playmaker who looks like he's going to have the opportunity to be the guy there in New England. They bolstered that offensive line with the selection of Will Campbell with their first-round pick. They added Morgan Moses to be another tackle that they can use. I think that this is kind of the turnaround. Drake May is going into year 2. He's learned the offense. Mike Vrabel is undoubtedly a fantastic coach who finds a way to get his players to kind of outperform their production. And while, yes, the New England Patriots weren't a great team last year, I think they're going to be much better this year. And Treveyon Henderson is going to be the biggest value there. When we step back and we look at that run game, we know that with an improved offensive line and an electric playmaker like Treveyon Henderson, his value could just absolutely explode. He's someone that I want to do anything and everything I can to get on my roster. Having that value at ADP 50, he's someone that you could easily slot in as your RB2 or RB3 and feel very, very comfortable. If you have one of those high-end builds where maybe you drafted Jahmyr Gibbs or a Bijan and you kind of punt the next running back position, he's a great guy to grab on your way back once you get in that range. He's someone that I think that can outproduce the names going ahead of him, maybe a Chuba Hubbard who kind of gets his workload ate into, but he's also a more explosive athlete that could provide higher upside than a guy like Chuba. At the same time, you have James Conner in that area, which is another stable running back. But again, the upside might be a little bit capped where someone like Treveyon Henderson can use his explosive playmaking ability to help bolster your lineup and get that much further into your fantasy playoffs and work towards getting that next championship. Well, let's jump to our next player, guys, and that is going to be Tet McMillan. And Tet McMillan is another big-time prospect who finds his way coming from Arizona onto the Carolina Panthers, currently being drafted as the wide receiver 27 and with an ADP of 60. So just 10 slots after Treveyon Henderson. I do like his value here as well. I've been kind of a critic of Tet McMillan throughout this offseason, so if you followed along, I'm kind of starting to turn shade a little bit here. But the main reason why is he is a big target, and he is the featured playmaker in this offense. I do expect some improvement for Bryce Young going forward, but he's going to be the playmaker for that. We've seen in the preseason him be targeted several times. He had an end zone target. It didn't work out, but you could see that Bryce was making the right decision in throwing the ball. The timing just needs to get worked out. We've seen that camp reports and from joint practices where he was actually able to beat Stingley against the Houston Texans in some practices there. That was nice to see him really come across the middle, show his explosive playmaking ability, and that's something that the Carolina Panthers are currently dying to have. When we look at what he did at Arizona, big-time playmaker, back-to-back years of absolute stellar stats, 1,400 yards 2 years ago, 1,300 yards this past season, 84 receptions, 90 the year before that. We see the touchdowns here, 8, 10, and 8. He is a playmaker. He is a big frame wide receiver, and he uses that to his benefit. I mean, again, 6'4", 220, 31-inch arms. He's not the fastest guy. He's probably not going to make a ton of plays after the catch, but he can do it. And that's something that the Carolina Panthers are absolutely in need for. And when we step back and look, he's kind of in that same range as Treveyon Henderson. And we see names like Jamison Williams again, Rashee Rice, Jalen Waddle, and DK Metcalf all going in that range that are fellow wide receivers. And I kind of like the value of Tet McMillan because he's going after several of those guys. Obviously, we have the suspension issue with Rashee Rice. How often is he going to get to play? What's that look like for your team? When is the suspension? Whereas Tet McMillan could be a guy that steps in and maybe isn't producing for you. I wouldn't draft him as my wide receiver 1, but if he was your wide receiver 3 on your team, you could absolutely do worse. So I love what Tet McMillan offers for your team, especially at the value of being an ADP 60. Now let's jump to our next player here, and it's going to be someone I've talked a lot about here recently, and it's Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, who finds his way on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, I understand there's a lot to consider with him playing both offense and defense, but currently sitting at the wide receiver 31 in draft, and with an ADP of 69. I love the value for Travis Hunter. He is an all-around playmaker, absolute incredible wide receiver that can do anything and everything. Lots of reports of him playing in that slot role, which I think only benefits him. We're finally going to have a healthy Trevor Lawrence. We've seen what Liam Cohen can do in Tampa Bay, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with this Jacksonville offense. Travis Hunter is just a unicorn of a player. There's not a ton of people that can do what he does, but what I do think is that he doesn't have to have that pressure like Tet McMillan steps into being the one in Carolina, whereas Travis Hunter is just the wide receiver 2, and that's okay. BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. can absolutely put on for this offense and be the playmaker that they need while allowing Travis Hunter to fill in and kind of fill that void. And when we're talking about the wide receiver 31, there's tons of value there. I mean, again, we're looking at guys like Jerry Jeudy, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, and they might be solid fantasy players, but I don't think that they have the upside of Travis Hunter. There's absolutely a world where Travis Hunter can go in and really push for the wide receiver 1 spot on the Jaguars. And I'm not saying that Brian Thomas Jr. is a bad player because he's great too, but pairing these two together could be a match made in heaven for Trevor Lawrence, another big body target for him to throw to. And when we look at his stats from this past year where he won the Heisman, 1,200 yards, absolutely dominant, had 125 targets with 96 receptions and 15 receiving touchdowns. He was just a playmaker. There's no way around it, and I absolutely love what he can do. And I think him finding his way in Jacksonville is only going to help make this team better, make Trevor Lawrence better, and kind of take some of the pressure off Brian Thomas Jr. too. We've seen in the preseason so far that BTJ was featured quite often. Obviously, Travis Hunter didn't play. He was hurt. They kind of just kept him out as a precautionary measure of this last game. But it's important to note that when he was in there, he was getting looks. He was getting targets. This team drafted him. He played wide receiver first. They know that he can play corner. He's worked into that role, and I'm very, very comfortable with drafting him on my team, especially given where you're taking him and the names around him. Again, he slides into that role of where you're talking about he could be your flex play, your wide receiver 3 on your team, and I absolutely love the upside that Travis Hunter brings for your team. But let's get to our next player, and we're going to stick with the wide receiver position here. And we're going to go to another guy that I've been notoriously high on, who kind of faded off here recently, but is starting to make his way back, and that's going to be Matthew Golden, wide receiver from Texas, transferred from Houston. Not the best production you could find out of a wide receiver coming into the NFL. 5'11", 191. Important note, he was drafted in the first round. Now, what we know about this Green Bay Packer team is they've been very stingent in doing that. But he steps into a situation where he is currently the wide receiver 41 with an ADP of 91. I absolutely love this value. He's a guy who can easily be the wide receiver 1 on his offense, attached to Jordan Love. While is he the best quarterback in the world? No, not necessarily, but he's stable and he is solid. And what we know is that this Green Bay offense is going to put up points. I trust Matt LaFleur. I trust that play calling. He does everything he can to put his playmakers in position. And what I see on tape from Matthew Golden, both currently in the preseason training camp, and especially back when he was at Texas in that playoff run, he was fantastic on tape. He's a double move monster. He's fantastic route runner. I've heard several people and I've seen several reports talk about how he has the best hands they've ever seen from a rookie. And that's high praise. And I get there's a lot of infatuation with what could be and maybe just kind of hoping that's what he is. But I do think he's a very, very good player. And when we step back and we look at the players around him, we're talking about Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, and Michael Pittman. Are those solid veterans? Absolutely they are. But when we need to step back and look at this, we need to say, what is the risk reward? The reward for drafting the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay could absolutely pay off what you're taking that capital at. ADP 91, wide receiver 41, he could very easily finish as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. That would not shock me at all. And that's paying off well over his capital right now. It's a really good offense. I absolutely love what he can do. And again, if we step back and kind of look at the college stats for Matthew Golden, it's not necessarily the best thing. Again, 16 games there at Texas, only 86 targets with 58 receptions, just under 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. But again, for me, it's the tape. And if you step back and look at the tape and see what he did, he was really, really good. And he played against some really good corners and some good defenses and found a way to really make plays. And again, he steps into a role where there's all sorts of question marks. It right now feels like he's the only healthy wide receiver in Green Bay. I mean, we've got Jaden Reed, who's in a boot. Christian Watson's out. Romeo Doubs is on the fringe of getting cut. So the opportunity is absolutely there for Matthew Golden, and he can pay off on the cost that you're having to take right now. And let's get to the next one. And I'm going to do this one as a combo just because I think that both players are kind of in the same situation. And let's talk about the rookie tight ends. Just given their situations here, we've got Tyler Warren, 6'6", 256, finds his way in Indianapolis. I love the fact that he is now going to be paired with Daniel Jones. Yes, we could talk about Richardson versus Jones, all sorts of things to unpack there. But I love the idea of what Jaylen Warren can be with Daniel Jones. He was featured quite frequently and often in the preseason. He's a big time playmaker. He's an athletic freak. He's going to catch everything. You'll see him in the backfield. He can do all sorts of things. Tyler Warren currently being drafted as the tight end 10 with an ADP of 94. He is another guy that can pay off the value there. I mean, again, the names ahead of him, Tucker Kraft. I like the playmaking ability. I like the upside of Tyler Warren. And now we can look into as well his college stats. And really, when we step back and look at it, a fantastic year this past season. 137 targets with 104 receptions, over 1,200 yards. 8 touchdowns. And again, like I said, they put him in the backfield. They moved him all over the field and just found ways to let him make plays because he's a dang good football player. And again, he got that really high first-round capital. And that's what we like to see. We want to see a rookie like that step into a great situation. The Colts quarterback room, I will agree with you. It is in turmoil. But at the same time, opportunity is there. They're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to move the chains. And Tyler Warren is going to be a guy that's going to be on the field nearly at all times. And he should have plenty of workload. I'm not afraid of the wide receivers in that room. I just think that Daniel Jones being the starter only helps him too, because we don't have to worry about Richardson taking off and running. Yes, Daniel Jones is athletic and he can make those plays too, but he's going to step back and deliver the ball. And all camp reports show that Daniel Jones has been the superior playmaker in camp. He's made all the right reads, the right moves. I've seen lots of reports of him connecting with Tyler Warren early in the mornings before camp starts, before practices, and I just love to see things like that. So I'm really excited to see what that leads to. And let's talk about the next tight end, and that's going to be Colston Loveland. Again, these guys are going in the same range, so I'm kind of just pairing them together. A younger tight end prospect coming out of Michigan, not a ton of production, just given the volume that he had, 6'6", 250, but he is absolutely fantastic. Only 21 years old. This guy has so much room to grow, and he's going to be a big-time playmaker for a long time. We saw him at Michigan do all sorts of things on the field. Not quite as moved around as much, but 86 targets, 56 receptions for almost 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like I said, the production wasn't there, but he had an insane target share of 27.9% and an offense that just simply didn't throw the ball that much. And they weren't that good either. So I'm really comfortable with Colston Loveland. What we've seen from the preseason so far is him be featured often and find ways to make the plays. We're going to probably see a lot more 2 tight end sets, so there will certainly be some times that Cole Kmet's going to shark him. But again, we're talking about Tucker Kraft being named before him, and I like the upside of Colston Loveland. Again, with an ADP of 110, he's currently the tight end 12. There's absolutely ways for him to outproduce that and find his way into a top 6 or 7 tight end in fantasy and be someone that is a valuable asset for your team and someone you can plug and play without any concern. But let's get to our next player here, guys, and that's going to be none other than one of my favorite players that I've talked all sorts about this offseason, and that's Jacory Croskey-Merritt with the nickname Bill. He steps into something that a lot of people aren't really sure what to make of it. Is it a timeshare with Austin Eckler? Is B-Rob on his way out? I don't know, but here's what I do know. He's a guy that Washington was very high on. Yes, he was drafted in the 7th round. There's lots of videos out there of them talking about how they wanted to draft him earlier than that because they were scared someone would take him. He didn't play in college this past season, mainly due to ineligibility issues at Arizona. So if we step back and look, there will be no stats really for us to look at for him. And again, that's because he was ineligible. Not even his fault. He's a running back who was the MVP of the Shrine Bowl. Not anything that's going to blow you away measurable-wise, but when you put on the tape, he was really, really good at New Mexico prior to transferring to Arizona. And he steps into a really good offense with a fantastic play caller that is going to use his skill set much better than a guy like Brian Robinson. B-Rob is one of those ground and pounds, get in the power eye and let him run. Washington's not doing that. A lot of stuff in the pistol, a lot of stuff in the shotgun, where they're going to use the quick pace, fast pace RPOs to kind of keep you moving and constantly trying to get the ball downfield. And they're fine with doing it in slow increments or in big chunk plays. But Jacory Croskey-Merritt is going to be the guy that can provide those. We saw the other night, he made the play heard around the world, the 27-yard scamper for him to get in the end zone, and everyone started freaking out on X, and rightfully so. His ADP shot up. He's currently at 147, and he's being drafted as the RB 46. And what I can tell you is if he earns that role, like I think he can, and I projected previously, I think he can definitely outproduce this fantasy cost for you. I mean, it's virtually nothing. So it's a guy who's going to step into a huge workload for your team, and you're not going to have to spend that much to really get him. And at the same time, if he doesn't perform for you, what we're talking about is a guy you're probably drafting as your RB4, maybe your RB5. You could say maybe your RB3, but that's a real hero RB build. But there's an argument for it. I really like what Jacory Croskey-Merritt can step into. I think the workload is there for him. The offense is good enough for him, and he's explosive. This team has been dying for an explosive playmaker. Austin Eckler is an aging veteran who can be very capable out of the backfield on third downs and be a safety blanket for Jaden Daniels. But first and second down, Brian Robinson was just kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, not really making those big plays to kind of move the chains. Plenty of times where he had a huge open hole and he gets hawked down after 10 or 15 yards. And that's a great play, but Washington's trying to house those things. And I think a guy like Jacory, a.k.a. Bill, is going to have the ability to do that. And I love his value. So he's someone that I'm absolutely targeting in my drafts. Even though he's a rookie, I love the opportunity for him. And let's get into our last one here, guys. And it's going to be the quarterback position. And I think we have to talk about Cam Ward, who finds his way with the Tennessee Titans, going 101 overall, 6'2", 220. The big thing with him is when we step back and look at his college stats, no matter where he was, he got better every single year. This past season at Miami, threw for over 4,000 yards, almost or 67% completion percentage here, 39 passing touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. He was absolutely fantastic. And what I can tell you about the preseason, if you haven't had the opportunity to watch, he's played really, really well. Right now, I'm not saying you should draft him in fantasy. If he does end up playing the entire season, there's a really good chance he'll finish somewhere around QB 11 to 13 just because he's available. But in 2 QB leagues, he's currently the quarterback 22, and I love that cost because he's someone that can outproduce that. Tied with Calvin Ridley, I think that's the biggest benefactor for this team. He's going to have the ability to be a big-time playmaker and kind of help stretch the field and get this young quarterback an opportunity. What we saw in the preseason games was him hitting open wide receivers, him making difficult throws, reading the blitzes, bouncing back from getting hit. I absolutely loved what I saw from Cam Ward. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker going forward, and he's someone that I'm targeting in my fantasy drafts if I have a 2 QB league. Again, if it's a 1 QB league, he's someone that you're going to be thinking about streaming or using the waiver wire if something were to happen. But as it stands right now, Cam Ward absolutely looks the part, and I cannot wait to see what he's going to do going forward because Coach was on it. This was one of his favorite players. But capping off, guys, there's a lot of rookies in this class that I have fantasy relevance that I didn't highlight, and they're going to absolutely have the chance to produce. But these are currently my favorite ADP beaters, and I think that they're going to have the great opportunity to produce for your fantasy team and give you a little bit of value without having to spend that big-time capital. But be sure to subscribe to the Face Off Sports Network and like the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.